Hey, how's it going? All you greasy gamers out there. Now welcome back to another video. Now, this video might look a little bit weird. And why is that, you're asking? Well, it's because this entire thing is a lie. What you're looking at behind me is my shower. I'm in my bathroom. And why am I in my bathroom? Well, I'll tell you, it's because I'm here to talk to you about something that recently occurred to me. I don't think I'm the only one that listens to music while inside the shower. I mean, there's some of you freaks out there listening to music with AirPods in while in the shower. Despite the fact that that makes zero sense to me, I had a question. What's the best music genre to listen to while in there? And because there's obviously not just one, I want to do this tier list style. I'm going to take multiple showers in one day just to figure out where your favorite music genre places on my tier list. I'm excited. Let's get started. Okay, so first, let's talk jazz. This is actually one of the music genres that I was most excited to listen to out of all of them, because when you think of luxurious bath time musings, you probably think of rock or jazz. You either think of water on the ceiling because you're headbanging so hard, crazy atmosphere, or dim lights, rose petals, a glass of wine, and a stupid little grin on your face. Just me? Okay, well, whatever. But did jazz music hold up to my expectations? Well, first of all, I think the image that I just had in my head was more of a bath time setting rather than a shower setting. But that isn't to say that without the bath, it was an unpleasant experience, because I definitely got that cucumber coolness when listening to lighter jazz especially. Not to mention, the more contemporary, fast-paced jazz was electric. Definitely gets the blood flowing, I'll tell you that much. So I think jazz is going to start the list off with a solid A tier. Whatever vibe the jazz artists are going for, they're usually able to captivate when you're in the shower, and I think the emotions that are involved with jazz music are heightened, if anything, while in the shower. Okay, next we're really changing vibes, and we're gonna go to the genre that I labeled modern hip-hop. I thought about splitting up rap even more than I already did, as you'll see, but I think we can agree that modern hip-hop accounts for a wide breadth of music that isn't too broad. But screw all that, let me just cut to the chase. Modern rap, hip-hop, whatever you want to call it, is goated. I mean, there's really no better term for it. Really, the only downsides that I could think of are that some of the trappier stuff, anything with high-frequency drum noises, can sound a little bit annoying. Now, that might be because of the not-so-great acoustics of the shower, or because of the kind of subdued vocals with a more emphasis on those high-frequency sounds. Other than that one very small downside, 99% of the emotions that rappers are going for are accentuated in the shower. And I say that with 100% confidence. Artists like Travis Scott and Kid Cudi, you can just stand in the shower and float away to, and others like Kendrick, Jid, and J. Cole, you can really pay attention to their lyrics, stories, and rhyme schemes. So, with that said, modern hip-hop is an S from me. So, our next genre is punk rock, and this is kind of where I get an opportunity to talk about the philosophy that I had when creating my list, and specifically putting the genres where I think they belong. I think that listening to music in the shower is all about extremes. Think about it. When you're in the shower, you're probably alone, you're comfortable, and you're relaxed. So for some, any insecurities that they might have about singing, headbanging, or just letting loose are mostly gone. So obviously, a lot of people would enjoy music that kind of fits that vibe. But the other side of the extreme is that because people are alone in the shower with just their thoughts and some music, they want to get music that fits that vibe as well. They want to be introspective, sad, or whatever. So in general, people either want to be hyped up or kind of be introspective, maybe a little bit sad. And punk rock is an example of a genre that really doesn't speak to either side of those extremes. It doesn't really hit that hard for most people, and if it does, I'm assuming that person has another genre that hits even more. That being said, it's definitely not an unpleasant experience, it's just kind of average. So I think it deserves a solid C tier. So the next three genres that we're going to talk about are split up by decade, 70s, 80s, and 90s, which is gonna piss a lot of people off. But if you care enough, make your own tier list. Anyway, the 70s is up first. I think that the 70s was a good decade for music. Even maybe a great decade for music. I know, sue me, right? Am I the first one to ever say this? I think I might be. But the laid back and somewhat psychedelic nature of most of the rock that came out of the decade really fit well, and it's aged like fine wine. And those emotions hit decently well in the shower. Somewhat underwhelming, I'll give you that, but it's still 70s music. You really can't go wrong. But, and this is where I might piss off some of the diehard 70s fans, I think the best music from the decade for the shower that really pushes it up a few tiers is the more hard rock, pop rock songs from the decade. Think AC/DC, Queen, Electric Light Orchestra, and Led Zeppelin. I mean, really, there isn't much to say. The pop rock from that decade is fantastic, and those bands are all insanely good. And all of that does not go away in the shower by any means. Now, coming up, there might be a decade where the underwhelming stuff outweighs the positive stuff, but that isn't the case here for the 70s. So much so that I think it deserves a solid B tier. All right, guys, listen, I love 80s music. Yeah, maybe I like the 70s a little bit more, but that's not what we're here to talk about, all right? In my experience, I think that in the shower, 70s and 80s music are of equal enjoyment. I think in terms of singability, the 80s has some of the absolute classics and some of the best bands to sing along to. Think Take On Me, any Michael Jackson song, ABBA, or Duran Duran. I mean, those are some of the classic singing in the shower songs. But I think the thing that really ties 70s and 80s music up is that 80s has a very consistent vibe that we were only getting sometimes with 70s music. So it's easy to get in the mood for 80s music and then stay in the mood. At the end of the day, it's just straight vibes, man. That's what it comes down to. So 80s gets another B tier. All right, now, I want to make something perfectly clear. I am not a Nirvana hater, nor a Green Day hater, nor an REM hater. But after listening to all these genres and decades of music, 90s didn't really hit that hard. I mean, I was standing in the shower feeling no emotions, just absolutely nothing. There was nothing happening here. Were there highlights? I mean, yeah, of course, but that's not really gonna cut it. So, I hate to do this, I really do, but I'm gonna have to put the entire decade of 90s music in C tier. All right, quickly, let's move on. Come on, fast. So we're hopping back to hip-hop here to talk about the 90s once again. But this time, I'm much less sad and empty on the inside. I actually had kind of low expectations for 90s hip-hop, mostly just because I thought that modern hip-hop would blow it out of the water, no pun intended, just because of the production quality. Production quality and a more melodic focus on vocals that has happened over the last few decades. But I was totally wrong, and I'll be the first to admit that. It was once again very easy to get involved with what the rappers were actually saying. Hear their stories, pay attention to their rhymes, all of the above. Not to mention, there are some really catchy songs from the 90s in the hip-hop genre. Some really nice hooks from some features as well. Therefore, I feel more than comfortable giving 90s hip-hop a B tier. All right, with this one, I really have to tread lightly because we're talking about an entire country's favorite genre. I'm talking about UK drill. I genuinely, hand to God, do not hate UK drill, but I know a lot of Americans, and I bet British people too, hate it with a passion. Therefore, I really just tried to sit on the outside of the situation and look at it from a logical perspective. Oh, you thought I meant logically, as in look at both sides fairly? No, not even close, man. It's going in the D tier. I know where my audience is, and I am not above pandering at all. The next genre that we have is pop. Now, what I'm going to do is just talk about modern pop music because to me, I feel like it's the most relevant. Also, once again, pandering. And once again, I had low expectations, mostly because I'm someone who mostly listens to alternative music and sees pop as kind of the antithesis to their music taste. But, and this pains me to say, high production value wins again. I mean, the rich just do get richer, man. There is something highly addicting about the very large sound that pop producers are able to get. And also, there is something to be said for the fact that a catchy hook is kind of fun to sing along with in the shower. But where my moral crisis comes in is deciding whether it's better or worse than 70s and 80s music. Because we talked about exclusively pop music for 70s and 80s, they do have a similar energy to them. So it is very hard to decide. But because the production value is just so good, in a vacuum, I think it's better. Pop music gets an A tier from me. And again, this is coming from a mostly pop hater. Wait, what? I missed the pop genre. Oh, okay. Well, listen, my honest opinion is that K-pop... Sorry, all right? It won't happen again. Look, I'm sorry, all right? It's my bad, all right? It's my bad. Oh, so next we're going to be looking at some electronic genres. So I think I might have split these genres up a little bit weird, but they make sense in my head, so just stay with me here for a second. So the first one we have is what I labeled as EDM, or electronic dance music, and this involves all the genres that I felt were pretty hardcore. So dubstep, breakcore, hardstyle, all that stuff. To me, though, I think these genres go a little bit too far on those extremes that we were talking about. They kind of stray away from just hyping me up and more just stress me out. Like, I get kind of nervous in the shower when my ears are being attacked that aggressively. I totally understand why people would love listening to these songs in the shower, and maybe I just couldn't find the right music, but for me, in the shower, from what I heard, EDM is not doing great on the list for me. So unfortunately, EDM is going in the D tier. So the next category of electronic music that we're going to talk about is the category that I labeled electronic because I couldn't find another name for it, to be honest. So these were all the genres that I thought were a little bit more subdued than the last types. I think they're a little bit less extreme, if you will. Think ambient, atmospheric, some trance, synthwave, and maybe a little bit liminal music as well. This is probably, I think, the saddest group of music. I think most artists that are trying to make music that is overtly sad end up creating electronic music. Or I shouldn't say sad, just introspective. But unlike EDM, I think this side of the extreme is a little bit more palatable. I don't care how much of a tough guy you think you are, the right Aphex Twin song and a cold shower will level a grown man. Whereas I don't think just anybody can get into the right headspace required to enjoy some intense EDM in the shower. It truly is an otherworldly experience to listen to this type of music in the shower. So it's gonna be our second S tier, and if you don't believe me, just give it a shot. All right, so the last electronic category that I split things into was house music. Ironically, house is simultaneously the most and least unique out of all the electronic genres. Unlike a lot of other electronic genres, house music often does include lyrics, but it's also the closest to pop music you get in electronic, so I don't know. But regardless, I think for most people, house music captures the energy and the experience that EDM was going for a little bit more, I guess you could say, easily. It's not as extreme. There's not as much of a barrier to entry as there is with EDM. It's more palatable. Every once in a while, I think it's okay to just pretend you're at a club and dance to some Avicii in the shower. I don't think anyone should deny you that experience. So I think okay, I know it says deep house, but I'm lazy, all right? Give me a break. But I think house music deserves a B tier. So I hope everyone had fun looking at electronic music, because now we're gonna take a little bit of a left turn. We're gonna rank classical music. Wait, what are you, a nerd? Or are you gonna sit in the shower and ponder something? You got a lot of things to think about, huh? Really important guy over here. Get the fuck out of here. Go clean your powdered wig on another tier list. F. Country music is another very interesting situation that I kind of wanted to tread lightly with once again. I mean, everyone has met at least 4 people in their lives that have said this exact same line. I listen to everything. Well, except for country. But unlike UK drill, no pandering will happen here. I'm giving cold, hard truth. I understand the appeal of country music. It makes people who like it feel comfortable, at home, and safe. And if the sounds of country resonate with you, then more power to you. I think you should totally be able to listen to country music in the shower. But everybody else on the face of the earth doesn't like country music because it has its tropes, and it doesn't really stray far from them. So, you know what, everybody? Let's compromise. Can we all agree on a C tier? How's a C sound? Sound fair enough? Well, I hope so, because you don't get to respond. Okay, everybody, it's time for neo-psychedelia and psychedelic rock. Now, there's a very specific reason I left this towards the end of the tier list. It's because this is exactly where my bias comes fully into effect, and I don't know if I can keep it at bay. Frankly, I want to see as few comments about how wrong I am as possible, so hopefully putting this here will do that. In my opinion, there are few experiences that can match the intensity of listening to deep psychedelic music in the shower. Well, that you can recreate at home. Safely. But I do have evidence to back this claim up. Don't worry. There is something very specific in your brain that psychedelic artists are trying to pick at, and you're most receptible to them doing that when you're, I don't know, let's say alone, comfortable, and maybe a little bit vulnerable. So just standing in the shower letting some crazy acid-infused psychedelic rock just like flush over you is pretty potent. So, it's gonna be an S. It's an unequivocal S from me. Just try it. Just try it one time, please. Indie music is next, and I'm grouping modern alternative rock in here too. Just like the decade music that we covered, indie/alternative rock has a lot of different music to cover, a wide breadth of styles. But I just decided to listen to a lot of different small indie artists and kind of get an idea as to what we're attacking here. Mainly, I was just looking for stuff that had a lower production quality and was made by a smaller band. The more heavy rock stuff was awesome. By far, one of the highlights of this entire video. It was arguably better than some of the classic rock songs because you don't hear them as much. They're indie songs. You're not tired of these songs like you might be tired of Hotel California. And the slower, much more somber, stoner, or sad girl rock is also a nice experience as well. It's all a very nice experience, but that being said, indie/alternative rock is also home to some of the most boring and not as exciting songs to listen to in the shower as well. Genres like surfer rock, bedroom pop, and alternative rock are not that exciting, and those are some of my favorite whatever genres outside of the shower. So I think with those two sides of the argument, it deserves a solid B tier because the positives definitely outweigh the negatives. So we've got two left, and joining indie/alternative in the B tier is R&B. Really, there isn't a whole lot to say here. It's just really chill music. I mean, maybe if you're going somewhere really stressful, like you've got a really important event that you're freaking out for, this is good to listen to because it'll calm you down. I have zero complaints whatsoever. I mean, it's not blow everything else out of the water completely the best, but it's also not horrible. All right, is everyone seated? Is everyone ready? Because we're on the last music genre, and it happens to be metal. Now, I'm a little afraid to piss off metal fans because they're not the fuzziest people. However, I didn't love this experience. Like I said with EDM, you can go too far on those extremes, and I think metal is another example of that. Like, goddamn, dude, I'm scared. I think if you're looking for this energy, you can get it somewhere else, and maybe wait until you're out of the shower. But I don't want to stop anybody from listening to metal music in the shower, if that's what you're into. And I also like how empty the F tier is on our tier list, so I'm gonna give it a D. A good D. So guys, this is about it. That's our entire tier list done. That's every genre I could come up with to put on the tier list. Let me know what you think, but don't really, because I don't care. But all jokes aside, I really appreciate you guys watching to the end of the video. If you have, a like would be super appreciated, especially considering this video is by far my biggest project and it's taking me the longest to edit. So, you know, if you could throw a dog a bone, that would be awesome. But if you aren't subscribed, make sure to subscribe up. Other than that, I will see you all in the next video. Peace out.
Let's go. Back in the mail, it's gone. She like I smell cologne. Yeah, I just signed a deal, I'm on. Yeah, I go where I want.